Blue Diode Press, around Blue Diode Press, and I'm very pleased to be here tonight to introduce this launch of Larry Nerigo's debut collection, Your Turn to Speak, which we've just published. It's a fantastic book. It's original, it's different, and I'm sure if you get a chance to read it, you'll really enjoy it. We've got a few brilliant readers in support tonight. We have Rebecca Kane, Maida Singh and Thomas Stewart, and we're introducing them as they come along. And Rebecca's going to read first. Rebecca Kane is from Airdrie. She has a big cheer from the Airdrieonians there. She has an M.Lit from the University of Glasgow, and her poems are featured in various publications, including most recently in the Poetry Review. She was a previous editor of the literary magazine From Glasgow to Saturn, and she is now, she tells me, a PR gal because she likes to talk. So she's going to talk now, Rebecca Kane.
Hi everyone, that's cool. I just want to say I am honoured to be here. We're talking downstairs about how I got into poetry, and it genuinely was April and other poets, mainly April, who I read and was inspired, and I thought, do you know what, I'm going to give that a go. And I ended up doing my creative writing lit with the help of Nikki here. And as I say, I managed to get a poem that means quite a lot to me in the Poetry Review, so that is big, and it's from my dissertation, which I'm going to read for you now. Thank you. So this is one called St. Jane. The kids all went to bed dreaming of soft potatoes, your body the shape of comfort, drawing in on itself like water in a tub, aching gently in the glow of the big light being left on. Before you went, I told you nothing felt real anymore. Dropped like a suitcase down the stairs, a Samsonite bird, heavy and just short of flight. There were some leftover crumbs next to the frosting kettle, signs of a late night supper. Scooping and cupping the crumb communion, you sat with wheat between your palms and fought for your rights at that kitchen table, scunnered because you knew if you didn't do it, it would never get done. Thank you. I feel so awkward in coach. You never know where to clap. I'm always like, so thank you. This next one is called Pigeon Gate. In the tall grass next to the Tupperware fires, there's a fat pigeon making a name for itself. The local gangs stare at it and show it their feathers and cocks to confuse its sense of love and fear. I make note to gawk at it as well. When we gather to talk in our shopping trolley huddles, the birds seem so fake, like bonbons and Shirley Temple. I have a feeling it may be a PR stunt. If we all see the fat pigeon, it must be real, right? I say this because when I turn around from pigeon gazing, I find myself in the middle of the road, no cars coming, only the fat pigeon, myself, and the overwhelming feeling that someone is watching me through the glass. I'll make this a little interactive one because I named it Crumble, but I hate that title, so we'll go around the room, we'll come up nicely. So this is Crumble, to be seen. Little motorcycle men scurry across the coffee table as someone tries to break up me over the phone. They're making good points, a lot of communication issues, the problem with my brother. They haven't let me get a word in. They take my silence to mean agreement, so I give a small grunt, trying to warm up the words in my mouth like a child's hand in mine. The cafe is somewhat local and very quiet. My mother never drank coffee, but she loved the smell of it. She'd sit for hours in little coffee shops doing deep breathing exercises, watching shy affairs and awkward arguments, thinking of dinner. I like to think I would be a source of entertainment for her, like all daughters are. I place the phone down and give it a gentle wave goodbye. The breakup voice still reciting evidence. I stand by the exit sign, waiting for the door to open, thinking of what time I should start peeling the apples and wondering if the bus will run that way. And as I say, interactive to get technical. Cycleman, that's it. We've got it. Yeah. No. And this one is called, and I like this name, but this is pulmonary. We bring a tough and braised heart to a barbecue. We drain it out of kindness, bless it alongside the breads. A vintage Malbec from the south of Argentina elevates the raw and gritty textures of the valves. Our shared friend makes light of the moment. She tries to inspire some romance like tired couples on holiday. Your heart beside our potato salad. My auntie in the kitchen trying to top up glasses to distract from the beating. It was the most romantic thing you've ever done. Big girl job, and it was about my big girl job. We had meaty poems the night I moved from private to public sphere. A real big girl job, my father said, unaware I was not being paid for my visibility. It took me 2 days to find the office, and when I did, I instantly lost it. On the 7th day, I went to get everyone iced lattes, but got distracted by the video my cousin shared of her C-section. I wondered about her career choices. On cloudy days, when the office backed away into the darkness, I walked along the local gardens to search for some lunch. Oranges and half-drunk beer bottles presented themselves to me. No need to hunt, I thought, not in my big girl job. The poems HR gave us were stale by the end of the mandatory meeting, and I had left my last sonnet at home. My boss slept with all of us to denounce favouritism, but I knew she found me to be the most productive. At the end of the fiscal year, we left our shoes at the door and bolted far into the night, foams gushing from our mouths like bloody rats. That's my girl, they all say. Now, interactive again because we had to switch the phone. So this is called Moon in Libra, and my moon is in Libra. So there's a lot. Which retrograde will make me happy? Here I am stuck between a rock in January with only a beer-battered love and an Abercrombie and Fitch that won't stay shut to keep me company. My great Dutch land. Help me understand the difference, restoration and change. I struggle to find indifference in his words. Cover me in a white smock and call me God, my dear Veronica. This heart is out and I see long winters in the future. I am witnessing a long sigh. Play that organ purely, simply to cover the massacre Greisenberg knew was coming. And then this is Bloodletting. This is my poem that was in the poetry review. And oh, sorry, I forgot to say, just a lovely little chat here. This is from my dissertation, and it's inspired by C. Conrad, and they're such an amazing poet, and they create poems sort of like out of shapes. I mean, there's a lot more theory towards it. Sorry, don't judge me on that. But my grandma sadly passed away, and when we were looking at all of her photos, I just loved she was a really small, delicate woman. I loved all her outlines, and so all of the things from my poems are in the shape of photos. So there was like a constraint element to it as well, and also because of her potion. So yeah, this is Bloodletting, and this is the silhouette of my grandmother reading. My Irish grandmother made us a messy breakfast massacre with beans and eggs slapped into the plate, as if to say, I know you sleep in the same bed. In this Floridian heat came a terrible thunder, one that reminds me of our time on the edge of the coast. The sulphur air made me miss the red buildings that soothed me when Glasgow refused to unfurl itself. The smell of home after a big rain. Truly under the bus I lie, belly flat and gravel printed, trying to hide from the novelist who has made me his main girl. He chose me after noticing my rosy cheeks and oat milk hair. What a selling point, you'd scream. And I refuse to enter coffee shops and hospitals in case he mistakes my boredom for tragedy. A good friend died. I didn't go to the funeral as I knew it would be a hotspot for buildings romantic. I brought you back, like birds of flew to tempt him off, but he ended up right in a love triangle. He called it something dirty like in between his speeches. He said I deserved it, and I believed him because he did not disagree. In the early morning, when the roads are still damp with piss and mildew, I lie face down and scream, egging on gravity to reverse itself like a car off a cliff. Thank you. Do a couple more thoughts. Yeah. This one's called A Room of One's Own. I'm sensing some real girl boss energy in the room tonight. Like it is Leo season after all. The moon is positioned behind the sun like a dog with kiss. You send me the tongue emoji and a wink. Two such of vodka, like the info lady said. My working cousin read my palm and found some anger in my money line, which added up because I only had 42p in my bank account since Sunday. I have no one to blame except myself, but I'll put it all in that persuasive barman who was either really good at his job or had just called me pretty. Feminism effort fail. This one is called Yeehaw Cowgirl. And this one's fun to me because this is my sister on her 7th birthday party where she dressed up as not 7th or no, she's older. She dressed up as Britney Spears in the double thing, which I thought was really cool. Yeehaw, cowgirl! What a big day for you! All dressed up in your double denim new look, fashion forward ensemble with a sequin belt and feather boa to match. Eyes wide like stars, high off thou looking juice and sausage rolls. The world rolling out in front of you like a big roulette table. Thin and baby, I'm so proud of you. Your freckles are like little kisses on your nose. I'm so jealous, but that does not stop me from love. You make me want to rearrange the way I think. Make me want to be just like you. I'm exploding like soda and vinegar, just like the little volcanoes we used to make. All is well when I picture you in those little white cowgirl boots, arms in the air, eyelids white and glittered, head swinging to Britney singing 1997, swinging on its head for you, my little cowgirl. Got 3 more, that's cool. This one is really important to me. This is called Big C Sonnet. Uh-oh. No amount of country vegetable soup can keep my stomach from evicting itself. At the grand age of 22, I have never felt more childlike. Standing across from my dad, his birthday cake in my hands, he hints towards something buttering under his skin with coal starting for roots. Why are fathers so frustrating? It's in the name. There was a shift in fruit intake then, a lot of 1,200 calorie meals, and big bottles of water. I tasted blood in my mouth and wondered if it was my teeth or the 20p I kept under my tongue in case of emergencies. My dreams consisted of Spanish swimming pools and dead relatives phoning in bomb scares. After a few avocado and tomato sandwiches, the brain fog cleared, and we swam in the open salt water of Plath's Island of Health. Listen, is never let anyone know what you're thinking. Prouder than the day my father let me watch The Godfather with him, closing the door with me on the same side. How fathers stand like great cathedrals. Here we are, smoking in the Sicilian countryside with only pitted olives for breakfast, wondering if we look as cool as the movies dreamed we would. Under a net of lemons, we laugh lightly, aware we are the enemy. Come join us, friends, we type into Google Translate, for the waiter sipping Merlot. Rushed off and sun-drunk, we wander up the hill. Like Big Kate, we scream. The energy is impeccable, like pigs in the summertime. And I will finish with one called The Zygote. Mothers are making a scene whilst I wait for a novel. The heat in the air suggests the presence of one. They are down the hall, hushing babies and tempting them with milk. Hairspray and smoke fill the small corridor as they bounce the children from one mother to another, trying to make a bread spit. They pants like my teeth predicted. A never-ending arm threading children like beads. What is a group of mothers called? This novel's better hurry up. Mothers make me nervous. They stand at the edge of your bed and skin apples alive. Thought I was pregnant once. I woke up one day and craved tomatoes as sweet as Virgin. My mind transformed that longing, that hunger into something mother. I held my stomach and tried to listen to any breathing that wasn't in, like an ocean step. In the end, I talked myself out of it. The thing that did it was the name. I wanted to call my baby Dublin, but I felt afraid to give it a name so big to something so small. I'm sure she'd grow into it, I tried to rationalise, but in the end I gave up on Dublin. Now I barely think of names unless confronted by them. The mothers are sitting there, lined up like toast soldiers to an egg, their pit stamp and scrunch. It's scandalous to be looking at them in their vegetated state, blushing because I felt I had done something wrong just by being there. I left the novel and bolted through the corridor door, gasping for air. Thank you so much. And thank you, April, for your program.
Sorry to everyone in the live stream there, passing the mic. Thanks a lot, Rebecca. That was brilliant and a great start to the evening. Our second reader tonight is Nida Singh. She's from New Delhi, but lives here in Edinburgh. She's the author of the poetry collection, I think it's called Ecdysis, and also she's the translator from the French of I Will Bring My Time, Love Letters by S.H. Fraser. Her poems have appeared in many magazines in India and USA and in the UK. She featured in the anthology Best Indian Poets 2018, I think, and in the Vintage Books anthology Contemporary Poetry in English by Indians, published last year. Nida Singh.
Congratulations, Lady. Thank you. I don't really, not really comfortable with giving preamble for poems on this English footage. After I held you under open heat, by a river that warmed and curved in the distance. It sloshed beneath the trains in that old world. Our dawns tapered, turning gelatinous within the deep glamour of love. I peppered these quiet words for you across the man-made dusk. And now you stand and feel in my solitude. There is a god moving her dark hand in which over the straits of the rain's beautiful. In shallows they find muster for the buoyant wave. The grass glitters, daisies quiver in their windy groove as you begin to remember. I couldn't gather you up, knowing your moons, your tongue. Think of me as a hand in the palm from a purer time, still core in your chest, stubborn, unmoving. The meadows, the slow tension of your step I know so well. Now this absence in air, the tunnel whose troubled whistle I fall in sound into rivers of lavender burning through our days as we lie in the meadow. God's thanks bruise the rising and come for me as you leave. My cheeks saline now that it's clear the sun only eats so much darkness. Darkness sick of itself, a mendicant praying for light. I alone enter the cave. I alone cuddle its alien tongue with night. Zone. Tornado. In the corner of the car, I held you, held your unconsoled chin as my cool tongue here, your mouth quiet, ear wet, slide, segue, zip. How we've grown from love to love, never touched the right way. The next selection of poems might be a bit different in the second one. Old theatre. Love you. Some great song. Brilliant. Yes. Love. singular strange its light, and blown into the flare, sharing silence. On the screen, licorice, lead, tungsten, iron, steel, tin, nickel, aluminium, silver, and mercury, and platinum. Outside, the clouds, lying on the sea. One dedicated to my French teacher's little boy to walk into her lessons every single time and disrupt the class. Orhan, named after Orhan Pamuk. Baby Orhan has learned to walk into my French lesson. Head like a planet on spring, face a peach, reddening in the spring breeze. He's my teacher's boy. We want the same things. More words, language, games. I teach him how to name objects. Think of the day he will put a word to his first complex feeling. I want to teach him something else, but I think he might know it already. All about things that are not themselves without our fingers gliding against their certain presence. Take bookshelves. They mean nothing without what we in time come to find soft, heavy. He will feel it all. Beneath a deep cadmium sky, a quiet pulse of the past ululating, mixed with a lightness, the residue of some forgotten pain surfacing and thinning out of his soft body, standing gentle, still, as a quiet stallion brushing flies off its rump, its long, black tail. Everything leaving him, we feel it as muslin pulled through a gold ring. A river nearby, suddenly. His soul about to plunge into the quiet limit, find itself neck deep in the slow dawn, beginning to know his world from the rest, that translucent pleasure foaming at one's feet as a wave on some plain southern beach, slow death and backward crawl upon its first at last moment of giving lift. Without the right touch, we are inert and heavy. Life is imbued by the brimming in his father's eyes, given he is alive, and our knows their bodies to yearn, to long in love, to long for love, and always find it in an embrace. Once we begin to undo ourselves, we free everything from significance, becoming free of things well past their significance. The milk going sour in an ex's fridge, the cheese wilting to a cyan, dendrites and all. What's a Margosa branch slapping a window all night in the storm, when behind that window a wailing woman gives birth? A man morose with the death of his mangy dog, a woman's despair, and she has lived on the bridge to see her child drown on her way to another dream. Always a crack in the rafters somewhere, the sounds of an orchestra circling against polished wood, aging the ceiling of a time-worn concert hall. Time unveiling its infinite face and entropy. Memory morphing into tarnish. I teach him how to name things. He davishes, walks, and knows already the petty trance of utter joy. Knows. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Ada. Fantastic stuff as well. We've got four very different but four unique poets here tonight, so I think it's a great treat. We've got Thomas Stewart coming up next. Thomas is a Welsh writer based here in Edinburgh. His debut pamphlet, Empire of Dirt, was published by Red Squirrel in 2019, and his second one, based on a true story, came out with 14 publishing last year. He was awarded a New Writers Award by the Scottish Book Trust in 2021. He runs the popular Love Crumbs live poetry series in Edinburgh, and he's here tonight to read. Thomas Stewart.
at this. Yeah, properly matching it. Purple with a yellow. Right, can you hear me? Is that high enough or low enough or whatever? Okay. I have a set list, so otherwise everything falls apart. Okay, yes, it's called Based on a True Story because a lot of these poems are about films, which is what I grew up watching and was in the blood. And one of those films was The First Wives Club. And I decided to write quite a lot of poems about First Wives Club, but I'm just going to share a few of them. Let's start with Strong Woman after Diane Keaton. There's a scene, if anyone's seen it, it's just for you guys. But if you haven't, some education. There's a scene in The First Wives Club where Diane Keaton, who's a very meek character, loses her shit after she finds out her husband, who she believes she's going to get back with, is fucking her psychiatrist, their psychiatrist. So rightly so, she loses her shit. And there was this thing of like, what's a strong woman? And all this stuff was being told. I was like, I'm just going to write a poem with this and call it a strong woman because I think she's finally being herself. So it's called Strong Woman, Diane Keaton, after The First Wives Club. The moon fell out of her mouth. Suns wrapped in her eyes like burning rollies, and in her throat stars. She says she is sorry for ever loving him, being there every minute, every day. Realizing with him, she became that blank space between planets. Now she is saying sorry to herself for not listening sooner to the sound of her voice, to the crash of 1,000 black holes. You don't have to do it all that. One of my favorite films is Mrs. Doubtfire. And I tried to write a poem. It's really hard to write a poem about like something you like. It's much easier to write about something you hate. And the reason I love Mrs. Doubtfire is it comes with a bit of family lore where on Christmas Eve, my mother bought it. She bought it and was going to wrap it on Christmas Eve. And then she decided to put it on and then just watch the film and didn't wrap any of the presents. She loved it so much. So it's sort of become a family favorite. And I decided not to write about why I love Mrs. Doubtfire. I decided to write about all the things I love. So this is Mrs. Doubtfire. Mrs. Doubtfire is joy, is a warm evening in the attic, is the smell of recently blown out candles, is a Pepsi with lemons and ice cubes, is the New York Times in the garden, is a golden retriever, is a Stephen Fry audiobook, is salty water on sand, is the sound of silence, is a publication, is my childhood, is my every Christmas, Easter, Sunday, is a good curry, is a bag of chocolate pretzels, is the scent of trimmed grass, lavender, popcorn, is a morning on a balcony, is a crispy cob, is a weekend in Italy, is a nightlight, is a crammed bookshelf, is a lion, is a wild oak. Mrs. Doubtfire is language, mother, earth. Okay, now I get into the angry stuff. Because this pamphlet separates into 3 sections. I kind of tried to put all the sex angry stuff into one section. But if anyone's seen Weekend, has anyone seen Weekend? The gay men in the room have seen Weekend and nothing else. Go home and watch it. It's the best film ever. But it's very true. And this is a poem called Declaration after Weekend. Of course, the declaration of love is spoiled by 2 lads shouting faggot. And they do it to feel powerful, if only for a moment, to have a laugh and to solidify their masculine heterosexuality, to avoid the desire they have to press their nose into their mate's ear, to lick his sweat and taste the sea, to wrap into him and breathe. Sounds less angry when I read it. This is the real angry one, and I read it once before without a preamble, and some people looked at me like, is he a self-hating gay man? I'm not. It's just, I watched a lot of gay films, or rather not gay films, and then there's this mixture. I mean, when I grew up, a gay film was basically, you're coming out and you're going to die, or your parents are going to beat you. And then it just kept getting annoying, so I decided to write this poem about gay film, what gay films are. A gay film is a target on your back, and your brain will eventually explode. A gay film is a coming out film, or frog-legged fear-mongering. A gay film is a conversion therapy film, where Jesus hates you. A gay film is about being gay, and being gay won't do. A gay film is a problem film, and the gay guys get swallowed by the sea. A gay film has the kissing scene cut out to not confuse the children. A gay film must be about sex, and the heteros therefore won't see it. A gay film skins me, and some straight boy wearing it gets given an award for being brave. My last of the angry poems is Capote. Anyone seen Capote? Yeah, great fun. And I just kept going back to that bit in Capote, which is what the poem starts with, if I can find it, where he says, people think they have me pegged because of the way I talk, but they're always wrong. It's split into two parts. Part one. You will meet that boy you bullied again. He will come back to that stain on the map you never left. He'll be taller and wear a scarf, the kind he used to mock. Like the sound of his voice, the sound of flowers growing, of apples rolling away from trees. That power you had in a world shaped like a school, where you hang these boys by their scarves, has gone. You live in his world now. Verdops, the boy says, and you know, knotted with a rotting tongue, can only utter, it's nice. Thank you, he'll reply, already turning away, because he doesn't care what you think anymore. 2. The boy swims in the ocean, lays on the back of a whale, tangles jellyfish into bracelets, sings secrets to the rocks. Look at him, with his face in the sun, so at peace with himself. Next one is called Look Me in the Eye, Motherfucker. I like to read this just to shock people sometimes, especially when, read all the nice fun stuff. And it's like, okay, now we're getting to it. I had this on my wall for about 3 years thinking no one's going to publish it. Lovely Ben, 14 points. Look me in the eye, motherfucker. You remind me of that morning when the clothes were still damp, drying on the radiator, and that small bedroom with the pulled out bed and purple pillows was sultry, and the windows glazed and steamed, and you had my dick in your grip the whole time, telling me how much you wanted me inside you, how much you wanted to feel full again. And I kept looking at the ceiling, wishing I'd used the picture frames or painted the wall indigo. And when you finally pushed me inside you, holding my hair like rope, I saw the torn plum carpet, and the ink patches on the wall became visible, and the room became so incomplete that I didn't know whether to go on and buy paint or stain remover. I didn't know whether to pull myself out of your arsehole or fuck you until you came to get it over with. I didn't know whether to go to sleep again because that's what we said we were doing with our day off, or lie there asking you questions, giving love like a bird might offer scraps. I didn't know whether your behavior made my lungs flatten or my brain expand. So I put my thumb between your teeth and you bit down. Thanks, guys. A legitimate clap. Thank you so much. Another family favorite film is Practical Magic. This is a short one. I lived in a world of mothers and aunts who ate the men that wronged them. As a result, I gorged my first 2 boyfriends, and when I eventually spat them out, they were beautiful. I once said in a reading, and they tasted good, and then someone was like, oh, and I was like, I'm sorry, that sounds really good. So I just said it again. My final poem of the evening is Calamity Jane. Anyone watch Calamity Jane? Doris Day, great one. I grew up watching this film. My best mate's mum would put it on. So we were both raised in a very gay household, shall we say. Calamity Jane. The first tomboy I ever met. The whiskey singing revolver so certain. A tap dancing jubilee swinging punches in saloon brawls. They tried to put her in a dress in a house in the countryside, by the brook, by the haystacks, by the cows and the apple trees. The Wild West would not wait. All her life it had tried to spit her out, but she would always call it home. Always ride the carriage into town, holster her gun, sing calamity, calamity. Jane. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks so much for coming out, Thomas. That was brilliant. We now come to this. I don't think the other folks will maybe saying the start of the show tonight. Lady Red Eagle with her Your Turn to Speak. Despite late being called Lady Red Eagle, Lady Red Eagle is actually quite a humble kind of person, not massively egotistical at all. She's a Chinese Scottish lesbian writer concerned with intimacies, and she's published work in all kinds of anthologies and magazines. Her first pamphlet, The Red Eagle, was published in 2019 with Wild Press Books. The second one, Natural Sugars, by Broken Sleep Books. This is her debut collection. I'm not going to say too much about it because I'm sure she's going to tell you a few things about it. It looks different from most poetry collections. It reads differently. It's a book you have to take time with, but it rewards that time. Lady Red Eagle.
Yes, so I want to thank everyone for being here, and of course Lighthouse for having me. And thank you to Rob and my fellow readers, Meta, Thomas, and Rebecca. Yes, love it. And yeah, all the support is really appreciated. Your Turn to Speak is a poem play based on Greek mythology. Each poem is titled after the character performing it. The excerpt I will be reading includes the characters Zeus, Hera, Patroclus, Achilles, Cupid, Psyche, Charon, Mnemosyne, and Sappho. Hope you enjoy. So I'm going to start off by reading the introduction. The theatre is filled and the play is announced. Zeus takes center stage. His booming voice dominates. But then, no. Here is Hera, and she has something to say. Zeus was lying. The crowd gasped. He was exaggerating. He was simply playing a part. Here, she says, I have the truth. And so it begins. Patroclus reveals that he bottled, shocked and horror. Achilles breaks into tears and must be carried away. The Orotes arrive, Aphrodite trailing behind. Sappho eyes them, that's right, from the first row. Even Medea makes a show. And alas, here come the chorus, bursting into harmonious babble. They have a great many things to explain, and no intention to explain. Your Turn to Speak gathers classical lovers into a room and encourages them to speak one by one. Not all of them do. Some of them return a great many times, revisiting their own narratives, editing and rewriting. In a way, they are speaking for each other. In a way, they are speaking for themselves. This is a body of work that examines the movement of power as narrative control is transferred, often being undermined and empowered in the same breath. It dissects the DNA of the love poem and what it means to perform love as a solitary actor. It considers the futility of pursuing and the selfishness of conversation. It discovers the innate duplicity of voice. It tries to hold truth in its hands, but finds that truth is a substance that only exists in the action of being passed. In a theatrical culture where romance is associated with comedies, the poems in this work wrestle amongst themselves with tragic sincerity. Indeed, the definition of a tragedy is challenged by the poems just as much as the poems are by the weight of their genre. The masks obviously refer back to the stage and the actor, but increasingly align themselves with the voice, and the attempts made by both the reader and the speaker to remove them are generally frustrating, bloody, and at times shockingly easy. Of course, you are reading about yourself just as much as I am writing about myself. The mask is a mirror, after all. Zeus. They say there's no such thing as a good and powerful man. Lucky that I am not made of light and shoulder blade, that my body sheds its form like a snake. They say I became a bull, a swan, and that wildest animal, woman. I fucked her under the tree of knowledge and ruined her marriage. Fruit fell around her head and rotted. Hera waited in the kitchen, slaving over the roast dinner, knowing full well I'd be home late. That is power, the way she knows better than to leave. They say I was the son, bearing illegitimate sons, strangers that rained like clouds around me. It is lonely at the top, and I am just a man, like any other, just like your brother. Hera. I still miss him. Strange, isn't it, the love that floats through life without a home. He is in the living room, watching television, in another world. I cannot cross over airless galaxy. Love, can't you see how I am unable to breathe? My skin will flay from the bone to build bridges between our planets. When you step forward, your foot is on my throat. You should know that no apology can ever redeem what happened here. There is no forgiveness, only that slow, gentle trickling of narrative. Only I could sew my soul shut like you do. Metropolis. He looks just like truth. You would think so too if you looked down the table and saw a man like that. The regal arch of his temple, the cornucopia of his conversation. I could eat this meal forever. My lover king, let me be the napkin that crumples at the corner of your mouth. You don't know how I grip myself, thinking of the sound fading across the room when you laugh. I don't care about your money. Let us be together. If I die in your honor, I would die happy inside your metal body, your masculine understanding. Those silver bones that me close and ready for the spearhead of your cup leading into my body. Psyche. I suppose every marriage has its secrets, but these things take their toll. He seems only to love me from the shadows. Darling, are you a man or are you made of fear? The cold glass fear that warns you against touching. I see your fingerprints. I am not a dog. My body will hold that ache you impregnate and make it tangible. What I would do to just taste it. I have imagined your smile, how that golden arch in my spine and began to find that slow, strange ascent into pragma. Heaven is a place where I meet your eyes in conversation. You must know I love you from my cadence, my small shifts and habits. the way I cover my mouth when I eat. We cannot go on like this, suspending tenderness in distance. Heroes. She is too bright to look at. My wings are not made of wax, but they're not. I have learned well from ignorance who didn't understand hubris or how to swim. Curiosity is a cup you can drown in. She loves that I care. It hardly matters what face I wear. Achilles. Warmth came slow, the sun baking the colonnade stone, the heart muscle pulsing against the rib bone. Ocean water which is at first unbearably cold. I came to tolerate it like alcohol, the stinging dilation of my blood vessels. Then the pressure, the crushing of the pericard, the fermenting of the fever, desire waiting in painted jars. When did I become so addicted to the shape of your lips? Which moment was the one that cemented that black liquid, the bacchanalian beat that let me cross from my bed into your palate? We should not have spent so much time sleeping alone. Here, pull in deep well of death, that black life-giving tunnel. How to drink without falling. Lord knows it is never good enough for me. Never a good enough reason to leave. He saved my life when he made me his wife. Then just like that, he took it back. Achilles. Just like that. I thought he might come back or at least visit. In the night I heard him at the windowsill, tapping. Why would you look me up? No, dark. I threw back the covers and pried open the glass casing. Did you get cold while you were waiting? Sappho. Not all wounds heal. What is fragmented will learn to coexist with whatever is between. Achilles. A bright light. You came into my life. There was the tunnel, the mile-long hollow under Chinese mountains, electric light punctuating the intervals. Living was an ellipsis that never finished. I used to believe death was kind. Pay the past no mind. Surely we have waited long enough. These brilliant fireworks hold their weight in the sky as I do, braced on my forearms above you. Aaron. I met him. You can rest. I have been asked this before. Sappho, fragments. I be silenced. The woman who followed through the waters, out of waters. He was a woman. Spoke back, answered. The most important thing, silence. Achilles can't have it all. He followed, they all followed through the waters, searching for new land, an island. Say its name. Lemosine. You must remember this, Achilles. There is a river that I preside over, Leaf and Hades. Do not drink from it. I am still a mother. Have I not fed you well? Did I not birth your tragedy, oiled between hymns and love poetry? Yeah, So drink from the still. Even if your husband or wife is going out, you must drink. You must remember this. Achilles, for the last time. There you are. I see you now. I have been looking for you in the rain, in the mountains, under the valleys. I dreamt of this, your forehead pressed against my neck. I dreamt of that. How many mornings did we spend in the soft dawn of love, growing past the limits of our bones? I have been here on the other side of the pillow. I have made my peace. When you were gone, there was a pain greater than death. To drink water without filling your cup felt impossible. Then I drank, and I remembered. Thank you.
Mesmeric stuff from Lady Red Eagle, and you get a chance to read the whole book, which I hope you will. You'll buy the book and take it back and have a look at it. It's the kind of thing that rewards reading and rereading, so I'm sure you'll enjoy it. Thanks so much to all our readers for reading tonight, to Rebecca, to Meda, and to Thomas, and to Lady Red Eagle as well. It's been a great night. Thanks to all of you who came and all of you who are looking on through the internet. Hope you enjoyed it, and you'll join us for future Blue Diode readings, which I'm sure will take place probably here at some point in the future. Thanks a lot.